Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing lesser known female-fronted hard rock and metal from the 80s. Okay, so when I say female-fronted, it could be a solo artist, or it could be a band that has a female vocalist from the 80s that was in the hard rock or metal genre. And mainly, for me today, I'm mainly going to be looking at hard rock. There's a little bit of metal maybe, but it's pretty much hard rock. And there could be one or two there from 1990, 1991, but nothing more, I don't think any more recent than that. So a lot of 80s. Now, when I was going through this, I actually realized I've got more female-fronted hard rock metal in my collection than I thought I did. Because, when I think back to the 80s, I think, there wasn't really a lot of female-fronted acts. But actually, there were quite a few, and I've certainly got quite a bit in my collection. So this is probably going to be at least 2 parts, maybe even more. So I'm going to do part 1 today. So when I'm saying lesser known too, I'm going to pass on acts like Heart or Girl School or Vixen, because they're kind of more well-known, or Joan Jett, Lita Ford, Lee Aaron, Doro, and Warlock, because those kind of female-fronted performers I think are more well-known. These are the lesser-known acts. Okay, so let's get into it. So starting off with, this is a group called Oriental Spars, a really unusual name for a band. And when you look at them and you look at the cover, you might think that doesn't look all that much like a hard rock or heavy metal group. Look a little bit more alternative or gothic, but this has actually been described at times as being a little bit hair metal. And certainly songs like the opening track, which I like, called Tattoo. Definitely, you can imagine a hair metal band putting out a song like that. Now, what's interesting too about this is it is female fronted, but sometimes it's got 3 people in the band, and one of the people in the band is a male called Jade, and so he does some of the vocals sometimes. But then there's also Laura and Mary. They also do the vocals sometimes. So it's not always female fronted, but most of the time it is, or a good percentage of it is. Actually, on the title track, Street Lines, all 3 of them do vocals on it, and it's a pretty good song. One thing that doesn't make it very hair metal is the lyrics. Lyrically, it can be a little bit dark. Certainly the track Daddy is which is sort of talking about child abuse. Definitely not your sort of typical hair metal type lyrics. Pretty good ballad here with Better to Die With You. You can imagine that on sort of a 80s hard rock hair metal album. I like it. It's a bit different. Like I said, got some good songs on it. My favourite would be the opening track, Tattoo. So yeah, check that out. Next one, Donna Christy. Now this came out in 1984. It's called People Will Talk. Now this could be an album you might look at and think it's not hard rock or metal, maybe it's pop. There's the back cover there. Nothing that really tells you it's a hard rock album, but it is. This is really crunching hard rock. On my price sticker here, the person who sold it has written on here, a bit like Pat Benatar, good AOR. And yeah, she's definitely got a bit of a Pat Benatar vibe. I'd say it's possibly a little bit heavier than Pat Benatar. The opening track, In Case of Emergency, and the title track, People Will Talk. They're great songs, really good hard rock. I think that's one of the problems that maybe female-fronted hard rock or metal acts sometimes had, especially solo artists, is how are you telling people that this is hard rock or metal? I know for me in the 80s, I'd just be looking for the guys with the long hair. Oh, that must be hard rock, must be metal. The imagery told me that, but when it's female fronted, yeah, the girls have got long hair. That doesn't tell me that much. So it was a little bit harder to tell. So that could have been part of the problem here. If you wanted to get the hard rock or metal audience, is for them to actually know that this is pretty heavy, fairly heavy album. Rock's hard anyway. It's not a pop album. And really good stuff. And worth checking out. Donna Christy. It's an independent release. And actually, interesting thing too with Donna Christy is that she's, if you Google her, she's still putting out some music. I don't know how active she's been over the years. This is her only album, but if she is still putting out some music on her own YouTube channel, it's a little bit more pop. But yeah, check it out. Next up, this is an artist called, I think this is how you pronounce it, Joal, Joal. She's from Germany. This is her debut album. I think it's just self-titled. And, it's okay. I think one of the problems could be you'd look at it and you wouldn't know it's a hard rock album. Nothing here to tell you. If you read the credits, you might go, oh, produced by Newton Hansen. So it's Tommy Newton and Tommy Hansen, who are, quite well-known sort of German musicians and producers. And they've helped out with the songwriting. Rock That City, which opens up side 1, is a really good song. It's a really good hard rock song. It's not one of my favourites, but it's okay. Like I said, 1 or 2 songs on here I do like. Queen of the Night, which opens up track 2, is pretty good. And there's a cover of Barracuda, the Heart song, which is great. It sounds really good, but the only thing is it doesn't really sound that much different from the original. And if it's pretty similar to the original, I'd probably just prefer the original, but I doubt that is a great song. Also, I guess what's interesting too is that there is another album. So she released another album after this. It came out, I don't have it. It came out in 1993. It's called Who's Got the Feeling? And it's much more of a pop album. It was 1993. Hard rock and metal aren't as popular as what they had been in the 80s. And she's going for more of a sort of, I've listened to some of the tracks, more of a pop rock, kind of bluesy kind of vibe on that one. And yeah, that was her final album. But worth checking out. It's Joal that one came out in 1989. All right. Next one, it's kind of similar to Joal, perhaps a little bit heavier. This is Joanna Dean. I think I've shown her on my channel before. This is her debut album called Misbehaving. It's kind of bluesy hard rock. She has a fantastic voice. If you search her up on YouTube, she does a duet with Tom Kiefer from Cinderella. They do the song Love Hurts. It's at Farm Aid. And she just sounds fantastic. And no doubt, vocally, she's awesome. Perhaps on this album, she didn't really have the songs. She released another album after this, but rather than her being a solo artist called Joanna Dean, they decided to become a band. Some of the people who performed on Joanna Dean's debut are in this band, and now they're just called Bad Romance. But Joanna Dean, is the vocalist. No vinyl of this exists, so it'd be really great if that ever came out on vinyl. I prefer this album, the Joanna Dean solo. This has got some good songs, especially like House of My Father. That could have been a hit, I think. That's really got a great hook on it. Great song. It's got the studio version of Love Hurts, where she's doing a duet with Tom Kiefer from Cinderella. But yeah, really good stuff. Yeah, like I said, worth checking out. Next one. This one is one of those ones that's not from the 80s. It's actually from 1990, and it's called Laos. German band. This album is called We Want It. The lead singer is, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Gudrun Laos. It's a German band. Yeah, it's typical kind of female fronted, and then everyone else in the band is a bunch of dudes. But yeah, she's got a good voice, of course, and the one of the singles from this album is, so the album's called We Want It. One of the main singles was I Want It. It's a really good song. There's a music video for that, so that could be worth checking out. Yeah, it's not bad. There's some better ones that I'm going to show later, coming up soon. But yeah, I don't mind this. Worth having in my collection. Like I said, yeah, I Want It is a good song, and there's a few other good ones on here as well. But I think this is the one and done type album. So next one. This one came out in 89, I think. Not absolutely sure, but I think it's about 89. Yeah, hard to say. It doesn't say on the back here. But this is Witness. Now, again, female fronted, and then the rest of the band is a whole lot of dudes. But it's actually, my copy's got like a little bit of promo information on here. So it says here, Witness crystallized in 1985 around the powerful voice of Debbie Davis. So they've been playing in clubs and bars, and it says that they developed a driving rock sound that eventually landed them a management deal and a showcase performance for Arista. And basically it's your typical sort of 80s hard rock. They've got Neil Sean actually songwrites and performs on a couple of songs here. It's very hooky. It's got some catchy songs. Not that heavy, but definitely qualifies as hard rock. Not bad. Do It Till We Drop is very catchy. If you want to be humming that song or singing that song to yourself, have a listen to that one. Otherwise I don't know. I'm not sure. No other real standout tracks. It's the kind of album you play and go, yeah, that was okay, but nothing really stands out. It says it was the group's debut album was recorded during 1987. So I actually have a feeling this came out in 1988. It's another one and done album. There's a picture of the group there, and 1988. So 1988 that came out. All right, next up, now this group is called Jade. And it came out on Roadrunner Records, and it's called If You're Man Enough, and the female singer is someone called Sweet Marie Black. She does lead vocals. Now this is their second album. I haven't actually heard their first album. I think it was an independent release. And this is fairly new to me. I didn't actually pick this up in the 80s or even in the 90s. But I do like it. It's really... it's really good. It's getting more into the metal. I guess it's on Roadrunner. Okay, so they're a little bit more metal, aren't they, Roadrunner? But still hard rock. Not super heavy. A little bit heavier. And like I said, this is kind of new to me, but I enjoy playing it, and probably need to give it a few more spins before I say too much about it. But they're actually a Canadian band, and I think this was after this album. That was it, but this was their second album. So there's also a debut album, independently released debut album out there as well. All right, next one, another Canadian act. This is Lisa Price. So she's just going by her own name as a solo artist, and the album is called Priceless. Now, the thing with this album, it's actually not a full album. It's only got 6 songs on it. But they're really good. They're all really good songs. John Albani plays guitar on some of the songs. He is the guitarist on some of Lee Aaron's early albums. And I think he was also in Rabbit. But really good. I didn't pick this up in the 80s. Found out about it later on, and didn't think too much of it, but it's really good stuff. It's definitely only hard rock. It's actually remixed. It says here remixed by Tony Bon Jovi, who is a relative, of course, of John Bon Jovi. I think it might be his uncle or something, but he worked at the power station in New York, and it's got some Bon Jovi vibes there. It came out in '83. But she's got a great voice, and she does some of the songwriting. 2 of the songs she's had a hand in songwriting, but otherwise she's got other people writing the songs. It's one and done. So 6 songs on this album, and then that was it. But really worth checking out, worth hearing, if you like that sort of stuff. Next one. This is Harlow. I've shown Harlow on my channel before. Now, the lead singer is Teresa Straley. She's got a great voice, and I've mentioned this before, but the back cover, for some reason, everyone's face is sort of blanked out. But you can see her there, so just making it obvious she's sort of the star of the show here. And some great songs on here. Chain Reaction in particular, which I think was one of the singles. There's a music video, I'm pretty sure, for that. Really could have been a big hit, I think. It's kind of a bit unusual in some ways that it wasn't more successful. I don't know, it came out in 1990. The other thing I guess that's interesting about this album. Tommy Thayer is the guitar player on this album. I don't think he does any of the songwriting, but he's probably just left Black and Blue, and of course now he's in Kiss. But yeah, it's pretty good. Like I said, Chain Reaction is a great song. Silence, the song after that's good. Yeah, there's nothing else that really stands out, but it's a pretty good album. Now, this is probably one of my favourite female-fronted bands from the 80s, and their first album is probably my favourite. Really great album. It's, again, I talk about it being surprising that Chain Reaction wasn't a hit. This band really surprised it wasn't a hit. So many songs I think they had a lot of hit potential, and there were music videos and everything released, but it just didn't quite happen. And the band is Saraya. I think that's how you say it. Saraya, I think I used to say, but I don't think that's how you say it. Saraya. And self-titled debut album. Of course, Sandy Saraya is the lead vocalist. Great voice. Some great songs on this. Healing Touch. I think that's got such a great hook on it. It could have been a big hit. Also, Back to the Bullet, which is a heavier song. But really good commercial hard rock. Yeah, really surprising it wasn't a hit. They did release another album. This came out in 91, I think. Produced by Peter Collins. And their management was Q Prime, which is pretty... I think they did like Metallica and lots of big names that became really successful. Like they did Tesla and Queensryche. They managed them, but they couldn't quite break Saraya. This was their second album. Perhaps not quite as good as the first, but still pretty good. When You See Me Again is really good. In the Shade of the Sun, yeah, there's some of the songs that stand out. Really good. But yeah, this is their second album, and then that's it. They called it quits, of course, 91. After 91, it was kind of all over for bands with that sort of sound for a while. Next up, this is a group called Siren, and All Is Forgiven. Now, they actually had to change their name to Red Siren. I think there was some other band that had already had the name Siren, so they changed their name, and there are some copies. I don't know if it's on the vinyl edition, but certainly I've seen it on the CD where the CD says Red Siren. And yeah, but All Is Forgiven is the name of the album. I thought this was a little bit dated because it came out in 1989. Sounds a little bit more like something that came out in the early 80s, not the late 80s. But the title track, All Is Forgiven, is good. One Good Lover, I quite like. Then again, like a lot of some of the other albums I've shown, nothing really stands out. But it is what it is. Good quality 80s hard rock, not that heavy. For me, I'd probably like those guitars a little bit heavier. One thing that's interesting about this is I think it's the guitar player Robert Haas, Haas. I'm not sure how you say his last name. But anyway, he's if you look him up, he's like a diet doctor who has released books on dieting and things like that. So, which he put those books out before he put this out. This album came out, so he was putting books out. He was like a diet doctor, and and then he got together with the vocalist Kristen Maisie. Kristen Maisie is the vocalist, and they put this album out. And actually, they've on their YouTube they've got some covers albums that they've put out. So one album is like a whole lot of rock covers from the 80s. So they've songs that they've covered. It's come out fairly recently, and they've also done a Led Zeppelin covers album as well. Which sounds pretty good, but it sounds good, but it does also sound quite a lot like the originals, and I'm not quite sure. Sometimes with covers, it's like, well, I could just listen to the original, but so it's interesting. So they're still kind of active, but again, another one and done band as far as officially major label release. Anyway, all right, next one, Gypsy Queen. Now, this features twin sisters, which I think was a bit of a gimmick for them. This is Pamela and Paula with the two sisters. Unfortunately, Pamela, she died in 2014. But this album was produced by Jack Douglas. I like it's self-titled. It came out, I think, about 88, something like that, I think. 88. Also 87. They did a music video for Love Is Strange, and that song's pretty good actually. Yeah, it's quite entertaining video. No, doesn't mean it's a good video, but entertaining video to watch. So check that out if you want to. Yeah, they really play up the fact, of course, that they've got two female singers who are twins. It's a bit of like I said, a bit of a gimmick, I think, but okay, not as good as Saraya or Harlow or some of the other bands that are female fronted that I'm going to show, but not bad. They also did a follow-up called Cellmates. It was the name of the band. It took a slightly more bluesy direction for that one, but that came out in 1992, so it was pretty much all over for bands with that sound. I mean, like I said, I think they had changed their sound a little bit for that album, but that album did even less for me than Gypsy Queen. But yeah, just so you know, that's out there as well, Cellmates, and it's basically Pamela and Paula again as the lead vocalist, and similar sound, but just a little less hard rock, a bit more blues rock. Alright, next up, now this is a bit of an interesting one. This is the only album I think this artist has done. It's Susie Hatton, and it's called Body and Soul. Now, this is basically Poison, but in a more pop rock kind of a way. Now, Poison aren't super heavy anyway, but this is, all these songs have been written by Bret Michaels. He's the producer. And yes, he was dating Susie Hatton at the time, so it's basically his girlfriend, and so he wrote some songs. Nothing wrong with her voice, good voice, but really it's it is what it is. And basically, if you like Poison, you might like this, because I can imagine these songs on a Poison album, maybe slightly heavier. They'd probably crank them up a little bit heavier, but it was interesting to listen to, and I don't mind listening to it. It's pleasant enough. But there's no Blue Monday's okay, but that's the opening track from side one. It's pretty soft, not that heavy, and yeah, not the best, but interesting, and still worth checking out. All right, now this one might be one that people might not know about, and it's a bit of a hidden gem, I think. Again, one of those ones you might look at and not realise it's hard rock. This is a group called the Burns Sisters and their album Endangered Species. Now, there they are on the back. There's five of them. And they actually are sisters. I think they're from a family of about 12 siblings. And this is their hard rock album. I mean, there was another album before this one. A little bit hard rock, but this is the most hard rock, and then they get a little bit folk rock follow-up albums. But this one reminds me a little bit of Heart. It's produced by Bob Marlett, who has done some modern rock bands. He's worked with Tiny Iommi. He's worked with hard rock bands in the 80s as well, and 90s. And yes, and he does some of the songwriting on here. And you could just imagine some of these songs on a Heart album. Really well produced, sounds great. This was a nice surprise for me when I discovered this. Really good album. Worth checking out. So Burn Sisters, they're still putting out material. I think they might be down to only like 2 sisters now. I think not that they've died or anything. I think only like 2 of them are actually still performing. But it's not hard rock. So but yeah. All right. Next up. This one is really, I thought about not even mentioning this one because it's not hard rock. It's certainly not metal. This is Tone Norum, who is the sister of John Norum from Europe, from the band Europe. So she's actually released like a surprisingly large number of albums, maybe 3 or 4. This is the only one of hers I've got. It's pop rock, really, but there is one song on here I like called If You Ever Fall. It's track 2 on side 2. That I quite like. It's written by Jack Ponty and Mark Mangold from Touch. It's got a bit of a hard rock sort of vibe to it. I quite like that song. That's probably why I picked this up cheap. I thought I like that song, so yeah, I'll have that. But otherwise, it's not very heavy. It's kind of, I don't know if she ever got John Norum to come on and play on her album or anything like that, but that would have been good if maybe she'd just got him on to do a slightly heavier song. But there we go. And talking of albums where they have some sibling connection, this is Pauline Gillan Band and Hearts of Fire. Pauline is the sister of Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. And this is a really good album. This is sometimes might be termed new wave of British heavy metal type sound. Although it came out in '85 on Power Station Records. But yeah, really good songs on here. I really enjoyed this album. Love Hurts, You Got Me Running, Lady of the Night, Stop Messing My Heart Around. These are all tracks on the first side, and they're really good quality songs. So I think there's not much else. There's nothing else after this, I don't think. And I'm not sure what she's done after this, but that's worth checking out. Right, so I'm at the 26-minute mark. So as I suspected, it's going to take me a while to get through some of these. I've still got quite a bit to show. But there we go. That's part one of my lesser known female-fronted hard rock. I don't think there was much metal on that one, was there? But hard rock or metal from the 80s, early 90s. All right, I'll be back with part two sometime soon. Don't forget, hit that like button. Feel free to leave a comment and subscribe. All right, catch you later. See ya.